Everybody, welcome to another live stream. Welcome to another Dear Booktube live stream. These are just some of my favorite events to do because I just love chatting with different people across the bookternet about things that are really important to them and really big parts of their lives. And so Victoria will hopefully be joining us a little bit later, but she had a mom emergency. So, which is appropriate. So, let us know, say hello in the chat if you are hanging out with us today. And we're going to get started with some introductions. So everybody who is going to be on the stream today is a mom and is part of the bookternet. So we're going to talk about that. So first of all, do you want to start, Tiffany?
Sure, I'll start. So Thanks. My name is Tiffany. I have been on Christy's channel quite a bit, so you've probably seen my face before. I have a booktube channel, which is called Beautiful Minutia. I also have a bookstagram, but I'm not as active on that as I am on YouTube.
Thank you. How about you, Jess?
Yes, hello, my name is Jessica, and I don't have a booktube, but I do have a bookstagram that is Dear Readers, This is Jess, and I am a mom of 3 little girls, my oldest being 4 and my youngest one being, she's going to turn 2 in April.
Oh, cute.
Oh, I forgot to mention, I have a daughter. Awesome.
Yeah.
I forgot about that's very pertinent information. I have a 6th grade daughter and I homeschool her.
And Jess is thinking for the future.
Yeah.
Cool. So wonderful. Hello, Mimi. Is it really UK
I didn't
Mother's
know
Day?
that. Perfect timing inadvertently.
Yeah. Thank you for telling us that. Awesome.
Fun.
Well, we invited Claire to be here today to give us some book recommendations, but it doesn't look like she was able to make it.
She's not. She's been busy today.
Yeah. So why don't we, while we're waiting for Victoria, let's see, I guess we did you guys say how long you've had your bookternet presence?
Oh, no, I don't think we did. I've had my channel for 3 years.
Nice. And then how about you,
Jessica? I started my bookstagram while I was pregnant with Emma, so 2018. And that's when I started. I don't even know why, but I was like, I'm just going to start this thing.
I didn't know you'd had it for that long. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've been on for a long time.
Yeah.
Jess has the best bookstagram too. Like hers is my favorite out of all the bookstagrammers. I love her updates and like, you're just the best, Jess. I love you.
I was just thinking I should show y'all her bookstagram account.
It's awesome. And every time she updates on an Instagram story, she always says Dear Readers, which is so Jane Eyre, and I love it.
For reals.
Check this out.
Inspiration.
It's so aesthetically pleasing. Look at it.
It is.
Mine is not.
You can see there's like a section where I was like, this is my theme. And then I'm like, no, I can't hold on to a theme. Like
no, it all looks good.
It does.
Thank you.
I think it looks pretty thematically consistent.
Yes, I agree. It's pretty.
Oh, thank you, Mimi. Yes, we try not to put the pressure on here. Life is like stressful enough.
Mm-hmm.
Am I echoing?
No.
For you guys? No?
Mm-mm.
Okay, good. Sweet. All right, why don't we tackle our next question here? So what does your guys' process look like for picking books, reading, gathering your thoughts on books, and then sharing those thoughts online? And do your kids factor into any of those parts of it, of your reading process?
I guess I don't have a great answer for this. I'm just to be honest. Like if I'm interested in a book, I'm like, I should read that. So I don't really have a really good process. I mean, sometimes I really love classics. If you're subscribed to my channel, you know that I read a lot of classic literature. And so sometimes I'll just randomly search classic literature to see if there's any that's kind of like recommended. Everyone should read this classic literature that's like fallen through the wayside for me. But really, like, just in general, if I want to read something, I'm probably going to read it. And I'm not really great about like constructing my thoughts. It's like a stream of consciousness. Like, this is what I thought. But my daughter does factor into my reading decisions sometimes, especially when I am reading a middle grade or a YA, because she's not yet YA age range, but she's coming up into that. And so when I'm reading those books, I read them with a critical eye, not just would she like this book, but is this book appropriate for where she is right now? And so I have a lot of middle grades that I read a few years ago that I was like, this doesn't feel like middle grade at all, when my daughter was 8 and at the very young end of middle grade. And now that she's almost 12, I'm like, actually, no, that feels really appropriate for her now, but it for sure didn't for the younger end of middle grade. And so I think that's caused me to look at middle grade and YA a lot more critically than I would have otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Specifically those genres.
Yes, specifically the genres that I know is like the age range that she is in or coming into.
We actually buddy read one, right, Tiffany, where we're both like at the end, yeah, no, this book cannot be on my shelves. And it was a middle grade book, right? I think it was middle grade, right?
It was like a mystery, but it was really dark that we were like, this is really like too far over the line for a middle grade.
Yes, it started so fun and the covers is so pretty. And I was like, oh, this is such like a cute series to have if we end up liking it. And we're like, yeah, no, my kid would not be able to read this at any age, because I felt we were reading it at this age and I'm 31. But it's like, I was like, no, this is not for my kids. I started reading middle grade when I found out that I was pregnant again, because I wouldn't pick it up back then. And I was like, I'm pregnant. My daughter soon is going to be like, thinking way ahead. My daughter soon is going to be able to read. And I was still like maybe pregnant with Emma. And I was like, no, I need to read these books to be able to have like the books that she might eventually pick up and that I can say, oh, I've read them.
I did the same thing, Jess. And it was like, oh, I'm reading these because we might want to read this for school when Claire was like 3. And I'm like, maybe when she's in 4th grade, we'll read this. And sometimes we have with some of those books. Sometimes not.
Welcome, Victoria.
Hi. Hello. Sorry to be late.
We're so
Perfect
glad
for a mom live, let me just tell you. Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was appropriate.
It really was.
Oh, we're so glad you made it. Wanted to say hi to Stephanie too, because she just got here too.
Hey.
And Pepsi Cola.
Hi.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you guys so much for sharing your experience. This is really great. I'm actually not a mom. I should have started that off. I'm not a mom, but these 3 ladies are. Oh, hey.
Yeah, and Chantel are here. Hi.
Chantel. So many moms loving it. So, Victoria, would you like to introduce yourself and your channel and maybe like when you started it and when you became a mom?
Sure. So that's a good question. When did I start my channel? I've been on BookTube for at least 5 years, I think. Yeah, I think it's at least 5 years. And so that was probably like 2018 or something. I can't do math right now, but I started it before I had kids. Well, before I had kids, because my son's only a year and a half.
I know.
So I'm a pretty new mama, and yeah, so I already had a channel and a book internet life when I had Sandro.
Awesome. Thank you. I know. I was like, I don't know if I'd be able to answer this question off the bat either. So good job. So you started in 2018 and Jess did as well. She started her Bookstagram in 2018.
Oh, cool.
So you guys are pillars of the community now. I hope you're
I love
comfortable.
that. No
being
pressure, but
I know about that.
All right. Wow, Jurassic Park in 3rd grade.
Wow.
Oh, that's funny.
and he lived to tell the tale. He's not scarred. It's fine.
Well, now he knows what not to say. It's like a perfect mom thing. Like, yeah, but you can't say it.
Honestly, I could see this because that's when you're really into dinosaurs, right?
That's true.
Even my 1.5-year-old loves dinosaurs. So
I love dinosaurs, so it's fine.
Yes.
I have dinosaur stuff everywhere.
Something about dinosaurs, they're just so cool.
They are. They are.
Yes.
And actually, it's funny because I took my daughter when she was probably like 5 or 6, probably 6, to Barnes and Noble, and she was sounding out a book cover, and she's like, "What's this word?" And I was like, "Something you don't say," because there was like swear words right in some of the titles, and I was like, "Now you know not to say that." And yes, thank you. He's either in the comments or this time he was in this like little window back here. If you missed it, you can watch it back.
Yeah, if you guys didn't see that, Peter was in the background.
Christy saw it. He's always trolling.
All right. And wow, that's incredible. That must be terrifying. Having a kid who can read everything at 5. Was Claire like that, Tiffany?
At like 6.
She's reading
when
everything.
she took off, she started reading like chapter books very shortly after she started reading. And it was like 1st grade. She struggled in kindergarten, and then when she hit 1st grade, she was like, I'm going to read The Hobbit when I'm 6 and retain it.
Oh my goodness. All right. And for you, Victoria, what does your process look like for... Oh, did I have you answer this already or not yet?
No, but Victoria can go. I just was talking about the book that Tiffany and I were like not putting on our shelves.
You should don't let me forget. I don't want to skip anyone. But yeah, Victoria, what does your process look like for picking books, reading, gathering your thoughts on books, and then sharing those thoughts online? And does Sandro factor into this at all?
As far as, I guess, being on the book internet, I always have goals of what I want to read, but usually the goals are this long, and then what actually happens is about this long, and then the rest of them are for another day. So that's how I pick books. What are all these books that I haven't got to yet that I did want to get to? But my Sandro is he's really little, so he doesn't really factor into like as much of what I'm reading right now. I think I have been a little more interested to pick up like books about parenting and mom and toddler life and stuff like that, which I had not really thought to pick up, but I find myself like downloading mom types of books on my Kindle all the time. Like, oh, I want to read that, this parenting book. So it's changed, sort of made a new branch of interest in my reading. But yeah, I think the one thing that has changed for me is just the pace of filming and uploading videos. I'm not really good at having a schedule anymore, and the pace of reading too. I don't read as much anymore. But like, it's okay because everyone has those periods in your life that are gonna ebb and flow. When I first started my channel, it was like at a time when I would work and then I would come home. And that's what I had. That's what I had in life. And I was married, so like I had a husband, but other than that, like my time was my own. And when you're a mom, your time is like the actual time you have is so rare to actually sit down and read. It's basically for me only right now in the toddler stage, only when he's asleep can I do anything for myself at all. So he has to be asleep. Otherwise, he's always interacting with me. So, and I know that's gonna be different for moms in different stages with different ages. So yeah, that's my rambling answer on that one.
No, that was great. And it made me think too, you started listening to audiobooks mostly like post Sandra's birth, because before you weren't.
Yeah, that's true. I do more audio now. I'm not as resistant. I don't love doing audiobooks because it's just not how I actually want to read. But I'm not as like resistant to them anymore.
How about you, Jess?
As for the process of picking books, like Victoria said, I do have like when the year starts, like these are the books that I eventually want to get through by the end of the year. But for some reason, as soon as I like set them up and put them on my bookshelf of like these are the books that I'm reading, I like lose interest. So if I'm reading, like let's say right now I'm currently reading, I think 1, 2, 3, 4 books right now. And 2 or 3 are buddy reads. So if I want to read a book and then I say, oh, like I put it on Bookstagram and said, I'm planning on reading this book. And if anybody reaches out of like, I would like to buddy read with you, and I'll be like, okay, let's read it right now. Like it adds some more of a, I'll get to it sooner rather than later. Because it could be like, I want to read this book and eventually gets like to December, be like, oh, I haven't read the book that I said I wanted to read. So buddy readers like help me be like, okay, let's, read this thing.
You guys are rebels. If it's on a list, it's like a rule that you don't want to follow.
It's like, and I don't know why you would do that, because they're technically books that you're super excited to read. And for whatever reason, once you said this is the book you want to read, we don't feel like attracted to it anymore. I recently deleted like my highlights from my Bookstagram, but if I went back and I've told my husband, I was like, this is so sad, because when I was pregnant, you could see like my 2018 highlights. Like as soon as I finish a book, I will give like my thoughts, not a synopsis, not a summary, just like this is the reason why I like this book. And recently, like last year, I tried Goodreads for the first time, and I thought I felt so much pressure, like leaving well thought out like comments or my thoughts on the book. And I was like, no, that's too much for me. So this year I'm not even gonna do that. I think this year I've reviewed 1 book, and I think I've read like 20. I'm like at book 24 of the year. So I've only reviewed 1 book, but my kids do factor into that, because I feel like time is precious. As a mom of 3, 4 and under, I'm like, I'd rather be reading at least 2 pages of a book than sit here with my laptop and just stare into blank space. Like, how do I type this review? When like before, I would just be like, that I liked it because blah, 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 blah. And now I feel like, no, like I need to be at least like more eloquent with the books that I really love. I can't just say I love it. 5 stars, read it, So I was like, no, I'd rather spend that time reading now. So we'll see about reviewing books in the future. Maybe I'll set a time for it. But then I do tend to feel guilty, because I'm like, this is a time that I can read physically, because I love to read physical books. Then when I got pregnant, I was like, I'm going to try the Kindle. And I tried a Kindle and I fell in love with the Kindle. But then I look at all my physical books and I'm like, I should be reading you. Like, I got you because I love you. Like, I love the feeling of a physical book. But here I am with my physical book. And if I find a Libby ebook, I'm like downloading a Kindle, but I miss that. And I feel like if I have time, I'm reading a physical book, and no audiobooks, because now that's made me feel guilty too, Victoria, because I've started listening to audiobooks and I'm like, no, because I feel like it's not a bad thing, because I can get an audiobook and some narrators are good. But when I read a physical book, the accomplishment I get after finishing a physical book with no audio, no nothing, it's like way better than what I get when I finish an audiobook or a Kindle book. And I'm like, what is this? Like, why do I feel like I accomplished more? Like, look at me. I finished a 600-page book, no audio. Like,
maybe
Oh my
because you
gosh,
can see
me
it.
too. Same. I
maybe,
have the
I
same
guess
feeling.
it's like you feel like, wow, I finished this whole book by
Yeah,
myself. Like,
maybe
I
it's
can't believe it.
just tangible, I guess. Maybe. I agree with this. I am always behind on Goodreads because I feel like I need to write a review, and I don't write reviews on Storygraph. And I like Storygraph so much better.
So
Maybe I should try that one.
I've started to keep a reading journal, and like I'm writing reviews in my reading journal.
Oh,
But
nice.
my original goal was to like take those reviews and then put them on Goodreads, but like I have just that has been exhausting to me to like transfer them, and so I just kind of haven't. But read my reading journal I'm liking because like nobody else like sees it. It's just for me, you know. So
No pressure.
yeah. So that's like I
Yes.
think that's helped is taking the pressure off of reading in whatever way you can to
Mhm.
make you enjoy it. You know, enjoy the time that you have with it.
Yeah. I love that.
Yes. It feels like several people feel that way. Cool. Yes, Goodreads is great for that.
I do like Goodreads. I still use it. I'm just not as good about updating my personal Goodreads.
All right. Why don't we take a look at the next question? Oh, but I wanted to say to you, Jess, that's same with me. Buddy reads are like the accountability I need to finish a book. If nobody's reading it with me, I'm probably not reading it, or at least not finishing it. So this was a specific one for Victoria because, but I think you already answered it pretty, like, you kind of already answered it. So,
She's an
but actually,
overachiever.
this would have also fit for Jess, but I think Jess already just answered this as well. So yes, things changed for both of you.
Yeah, I think taking off the pressure of like you don't have to do anything. Like this is just a hobby. You don't have to read the books on your TBR. You don't have to read X amount of books every month. You don't have to upload every week. Even I do not upload on my channel every week. I try to, but like this week didn't happen. So it's just like being okay with that was kind of a process for me because I'm very like I'm a high Enneagram 1. So I'm like, I have to do things right. If I'm going to do them, I have to do them the right way, which is whatever way I came up with in my head is the right way. So like, it's just ridiculous. So just taking that pressure off is the only way that I'm still on BookTube because otherwise I would have burned myself out.
Mm-hmm.
I do get asked if I'm ever thinking of starting a BookTube channel. And I feel like you said, Victoria, because I've heard a lot of people say, like, I'm taking a break. It's so exhausting, or this is my schedule. And sorry if I don't upload on time. And in my mind, I'm like, imagine like recording yourself, like finding time to record yourself, then finding time to edit and then post it. And then also like having time to build your community, because obviously I'm not just going to be in BookTube and be like, hi, I read this book and I liked it and 5 stars and bye, see you next video. Like I've seen everybody, like most of you girls, like reply to every comment, like at least like every comment. I'm like, I think that would be too much on my plate, like right now to do that. I was like, I would have loved to, but I don't see that as like something that I would eventually like really enjoy. I'm like, maybe when my kids are all married and you know, like everybody on their own or something.
Stay tuned. In 2040, Jess is starting a BookTube. Or BookTube.
2040, my BookTube channel is coming
It's gonna be her year, guys.
I would love to see a channel from you, Jess, but I also completely understand like just being like it's too much because it's a lot. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm. It is.
That's why like I always appreciate all the like whenever you go to your subscription, and I can understand when you guys feel the pressure because we as viewers get so excited when we go to like our subscription and it's like Tiffany uploaded, Christy uploaded, Victoria uploaded. You're like, oh, all day, like I have my day planned, like and then when you go in there and there's like no new uploads, you're like, oh, okay, I'll wait. Like you just put your phone down and you're like, okay, what do I do now? But every time like breakfast, I'm like, I need to watch a booktube video. I'm eating lunch, let me watch a booktube video. So when there's like new uploads, I'm like, what's going on? Are they okay? What's going on? It's Wednesday, where's the video? So I was like, I can imagine the pressure that you guys feel, like not letting your viewers down, but we understand.
What I found is that no one actually notices when we have a schedule. Like maybe sometimes people do, but like most people don't. They don't notice. They just like are happy when you upload.
Yeah, when there's like a video on your subscription feed.
So Victoria talked a little bit about this, but Tiffany, have your reading preferences changed because of motherhood at all?
I don't know if they have or not. I think that there are things that I don't like to read as a mom that maybe didn't bother me before I had a child, particularly like certain content things. I think was just like, whatever. And then once you have a kid and there's something involving some sort of violence to a child, it feels so much worse when you're a mom and you imagine what it would feel like to be the parent of a child who had something happen to them, or they went missing and you couldn't find them, or things like that. And so it's like, I think that in that case, I would say that that's something that probably didn't bother me before as much, and it does now. But I don't think that overall my preferences have changed. More like how I read probably has changed some, but not really like preferences, I guess.
Okay, interesting. How about you, Jess?
I don't think also they have changed. I did add a genre. And I was talking to Rainy about it. I was like, I need you to help me decipher what this means because I'm scared. I was pregnant with Emma, and I would only crave like a lot of murder mysteries or horror books. And I would read murder mysteries, which to me was like, oh, it's nothing. But I would read like 1 or 2 a month. But this one was like, I just need to be reading murder mysteries. And then I started with like, you know what? I need something scary. And I would start reading like horror books. And I was like, what is going on? And then I got pregnant. But then it would like I would want to call it like a book craving, because then the book craving would go away as soon as she was born. I wanted to read like classic books, like just softening books and be like, oh, like being happy because it's my first baby and this and that. And then I got pregnant with Olga, and it was the same thing. I was like, it was funny because I even told my husband, I'm pregnant. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm craving a horror book. I'm pregnant. And then he's like, what do you mean? I was like,
What do you mean?
I'm pregnant. And so it did. And like every time I was pregnant, I would gravitate towards like horror books. And I was like, what is this thing? I was like, what are my little ones? Like, no, I need to start reading the Bible more, because I was like, I need to balance it out. Just in case. I was like, I don't want to read too much into it, but just in case. And now I read horror books. Like occasionally I like pick some like thriller ones. But that's the thing that I found like the most weird. Like now horror is like one of my genres that I read. But before I would be like too scared. I was like, I can't read horror books. I'm like watching horror movies. But
that's so funny.
And now it's part of my like book genres that I read now.
I've heard of food cravings, but never book cravings. That's so funny. I love that so much. That's like the best craving I've ever heard. It's my new favorite pregnancy story.
Like when you're pregnant, babe, I'm craving a new book.
Oh yeah, this is a good point too. Jessie Mae's another one who she took a bit of a channel break, and that was great. Everybody was really glad to see her again when she came back. How about you, Victoria?
I definitely second what Tiffany said. Just not only in books, but in movies and TV. I'm so much more. It's not that I wasn't sensitive to it before, but I'm more internalizing things if things happen to children in stories. So that's usually like if I know that something bad happens to children in a book, I'm a lot more likely to not pick it up anymore. But it also depends on what it is. But I also notice more when mothers are represented in books, and how they're portrayed, or the lack of them in books, or the lack of female protagonists who are mothers, or a mother being a side character rather than a main character. So I've thought of that too. And there's some books that like feature mothers who are like main characters, like Sword of Kaigen is one. What I'm reading right now is, what's it called? I forget. It's the Shannon Chakraborty, Amina Al-Sarafi. I'm for the Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. I can't remember the title. But like, it's very unusual to have a mother main character as your center protagonist, and so I just appreciate that a lot more when I do come across a book that features that, because I never really noticed how that demographic is not usually front and center.
I think that's part of the reason I love Little Women so much, because when I was younger, I was like, oh, I was like, I'm more of a Meg, but I always wanted to be a Beth. And then I read Little Women as an adult, and I was like, no, I want to be Marmee.
Yes. It's like those memes that had come out of Twilight. Be like, when I was younger, I was Team Edward. Now I'm like Team, what's Dad's name?
Charlie.
Charlie.
Oh, Team
Charlie. Like, now at this age, I'm Team Charlie. Like, I also think because when that I got married and had started having children, because I see a lot of critics talk about, like, book reviewers about Charlie, like the Brontes, and I think it was Anne Bronte, the one that wrote The Tenant of Wilful Hall, and I think like a lot of them were, I don't want to say, oh, because you're not married or don't have kids. Like, I feel like I was able to appreciate more and enjoyed her, like the main character in that one, because she was married and she was religious and she had a child. So to me, it's like I could relate to why she did the things that she did, why others like would criticize the reason why she did things. And I was like, I think it does change you, like your perspective on books, and you appreciate more, or you realize like, no, this is not for me right now to read.
It sounds like, it's so funny because it sounds like Jen's preferences changed in like the opposite way from like Victoria and Tiffany. She was like, I need more hardcore, and Tiffany and Victoria are like, no, protect the children, you know. So funny. We have a question for the booktubers. Tiffany, you want to tackle this one?
I have an iPhone. I use my iPhone and I use iMovie to edit it. So I'm like all the free software. Thank you so much. I've never gotten around to learning anything else. That's all I have used so far, and it works for me. So,
how about you, Victoria?
I've used iMovie since 2018.
Oh, have you? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I used to have I still have a fancy camera. At some point, Julio bought me a nice camera, and I used to do separate audio and like a nice camera, but now it takes so much effort to set it up that I would not enjoy making videos if I set up all that stuff, and I don't have the bandwidth for it anymore. So yeah, same, Tiffany, iPhone and iMovie.
I love that. So I have my setup has changed so many times, but it's partly because I also do it for my job. So every time my job gets new equipment, I then incorporate that, and it changes how I do everything. So it's changed so much. But currently I'm using HitFilm Express on my computer, and I forget what camera I have. It's a Canon camera, and then I have a microphone. Moana or something like that. I can't read it from here. But yeah, that's the current setup.
Sounds like Moana to me when you said that.
Moana, yeah.
No one knows how far it'll go. No one knows.
Oh yeah, so Dia, that's all you see. I'm guessing this was the phone, iMovie.
Mm-hmm.
And Amy. What?
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy. I forgot to say hi earlier too. There's somebody else who came earlier, and Courtney Reeds. She was here earlier, and I forgot to say hi.
Courtney,
hi. Welcome everybody. And I know I've missed some of your comments, so apologies about that. But thank you so much for writing. It's so fun when you guys are writing comments to us. So keep it up. Did we hit every? Yeah, we talked about that. Okay. Next question. A lot of my bookternet friends are moms, and it really seems like moms in particular are drawn to the bookternet. Like there are some guys here, but there's not that many guys here. But I'm just really curious why there's so many moms. Why do you guys think that the bookternet is attractive to moms, and why are you specifically drawn to the bookternet? Do you want to start this one, Victoria?
Sure. Well, I was on the book internet before I was a mom, so I was just drawn to the community for the reasons that everyone else is drawn to the community, because it's such a great community and we love to read. So that, that's essentially it. What changed for me when I became a mom was I had to make the decision of, do I still make this hobby a priority? Do I still set aside time for it? Is it worth that? And for me, it absolutely is worth that. And I had to be like, yeah, like whatever capacity that I can do it, I'm gonna keep doing it because I enjoy it. And it's one of the only hobbies that like is just mine, I guess, in like amongst my family. Like reading has always been like, not that people in my life don't read, but they definitely aren't as engaged as I am in the book world. So it's something that it just became part of how I operate, is reading books and talking to friends about books. So that's why I'm drawn to the book internet, and it's just such a happy, positive space. And I basically made a decision to just always be a part of it, even if I'm not consistently uploading or whatever. But it's worth the effort, even though it is extra effort. It's completely worth it.
I love that interaction at my own discretion.
Yes.
When you're feeling up to it and your social battery isn't drained.
Yes. I think that's a really helpful way to think about it, actually. And yes. Yes, Chantal. I started it because I was homesick all the time. After I finished getting my degree from home, I was like, now what? And then I found all you people, and now my life is better. So yes, this goes for anybody who's at home all day, I think. Yes. Just saying. So Chantal started BookTube when she started fostering because she didn't have the bandwidth to continue with an in-person book club. Plus, no one in my personal life reads as much as I do, are very similar. I feel like this is going to be like a common theme with people who've joined BookTube in general and not just moms.
Yeah, totally.
How about you, Jess?
I think it's the same thing. I also started while I was pregnant with Emma. And it was because I did my first pregnancy, I went through a miscarriage. So with Emma, we were like extra careful with everything. So I would take like a month off. I did go through a pregnancy scare with Emma as well. So I had like a month of rest. And I was like, well, I like to read. So I would just start like the Bookstagram. And I was like, oh, like I see these people, I would follow BookTube first. And then I would see like, check out my Bookstagram. And I was like, what is a Bookstagram? And that's when I would start doing that and just taking pictures and updating my reading, because the same, like I don't have friends or family that enjoyed reading. Like, it's funny because whenever I say like, oh, like I'm gonna go to this Zoom reading sprints, and it's like, oh, what's that? And I was like, oh, you just like it feels weird to explain it to non-readers because I sound like a complete nerd, and like I know I do, you know. And I was like, you just log into YouTube and you just follow two people and then talk for a little bit and then you read for like 30 minutes in silence while you're watching them and reading comments of, and I know that weird it sounds, but to me it's like I get like really excited when I see like reading springs coming up and things like that. So I was like, I need to find my group of people that enjoy that. And finding moms was like just an extra plus thing because it does, when you're a mom for the first time, like I do think a lot of things go through your mind. You try not to get like negative, but like a lot of things happen. Like, is my life going to be the same? Am I going to change? Am I going to have time for this? Am I going to have time for that? And finding moms already in the bookternet, it helped me establish like, yes, I'll still have time to read. Maybe not as much, but I will find a way. And I'm glad that I found a way still, but it's still a struggle. My bookmarks have been missing. I lose pages because I lose track of my book because I find the bookmark in the kitchen and my book in the living room. But it's just it's a challenge, but like a fun challenge.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. Sandro now, he takes books off the shelves. He just like takes them off and looks at the covers, and he never like rips them. He like likes them. But yeah, I find books everywhere.
Oh, reading sprints really do sound so weird.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that they're starting to do like silent reading parties, like in person in places where you sit and read together in silence? I'm like, those are reading sprints.
My library started a silent reading book club.
I love it.
Which I love. It's so great. This is so true. Usually we go to physical therapy once a week and they always ask me, what are your weekend plans? Because we always go on Friday. And I'm like, how do I explain reading sprints to these people? I don't know. They look at me like very, very strange. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Husband usually, when I tell him like reading sprints, I didn't know what he would thought, right? But he would never question it. He'll be like, okay, like go enjoy your time. And then just recently, and I've been joining reading sprints for a long time, and just recently I was doing the Patreon for Kate's Patreon, and they were like doing reading sprints. And once I finished, he's like, so what book did you all read? I was like, well, I read this one, and Kate, I think, read this one, and Jared was reading this one, and like Penny was reading this one. He's like, you don't read the same book. And I'm like, no. And he's like, so what's the point of you being with other people? And like, I was like, the point is that we're like together reading during reading time. Like, I'm not reading by myself. I'm reading with friends. He honestly thought it was like we were reading the same chapters, the same book, and just discussing it after. And I was like, no.
That would be fun too. But
yeah, I was like, yeah, but we read like whatever we wanted to read.
Plus, everyone reads at a different pace. Can you imagine if you're supposed to read 3 chapters and like someone's read 5 and someone's read 1, you know?
Yeah, that would be too stressful for me.
That is super cute. Yes.
It is.
It is hilarious and adorable. That is super adorable. We had some other comments up here that were great. Let me find them again. Oh yeah, Mimi said, being a mom was an important role in my life, but it didn't replace or negate my prior roles and interests, which I thought.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's like spot on. That's exactly it.
And then after having children, did your view of having an internet present change, or maybe this is actually one of our questions? Well, sort of. Yeah, let's just answer, but first let's let Tiffany answer our question, then we can come back to this one. Tiffany.
I think for me, like it was similar in that I started my booktube channel because no one I knew in real life was reading any of the books that I was reading, and I wanted a place to talk about them instead of just telling my husband about them, and he's just like, cool. Like, he's nice and supportive, so he'd just be like, oh, but he has that glazed over look because he has no idea what I'm talking about. So that's why I started a booktube channel, but I have moved around a lot. And so I have never had a consistent in-person community and don't retain friends a lot of the way in the same way because I've moved cross country so many times. So a lot of times when you're out of people's physical sphere, it's almost out of sight, out of mind, and you don't talk to them as much. I have a couple friends that I still talk to, but most of them, once I moved away, our communication dropped off after a little bit, and then I just didn't really talk to them anymore. And that's okay. That's not it's kind of natural, I think. But having this community online meant a lot to me because I have never had really much of an in-person community ever for most of my life. So it was really special for me to have a set group of friends, and it doesn't matter where I move because I can see you guys anyway because we're going online. And that was just something that was really special to me about BookTube.
That makes a lot of sense. I love hearing why people join the bookternet. All right. So, yes, tell us, after having children, did your view of having an internet presence change, or your outlook on your legacy? I've never heard that term. Victoria, do you want to start again?
Sure. Yes, actually, my answer to this is yes. It did change. It changed how I saw what I put on my channel, and I had to make the decision of do I show my child or not. And actually, this is now why I don't do reading vlogs anymore publicly on my channel, but I will do reading vlogs for my Patreon because that's an enclosed group of people who I know better. But I have decided I'm not putting him on my channel just to protect him, and he doesn't have any say in it, at his age. So that was my decision, but it's very personal from parent to parent. So I don't want to say that that's the right way to do it. I don't think that's necessarily that's not true, but you have to do what you're comfortable with as a parent. And for me it was, until he can say I want to be in the video, I'm not gonna probably put him on my channel because of the nature of YouTube and it being just anyone from anywhere can find things. So that was the decision I made. I do sometimes share him in Instagram stories and stuff, but I don't know. It's I just limit where I do share things about him. So but I love,
and you have oh, sorry.
I'd love to hear everybody else's answer.
Okay, yeah. And I was gonna say you also have separate accounts for a personal Instagram versus Bookstagram.
I have a book account, and then I have the account that my friends and family all follow. So my book one is just book people, basically.
Right. I think that's really smart. How about wait, there was a couple more questions that I missed right before we changed the question. Yes, please join us for reading sprints.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
your
exciting.
daughter's the same age as mine.
Yes.
And my daughter is a reader also.
Yes, head on over to Tiffany's channel. And if you join her Patreon, she does reading sprints.
I do them on my channel too sometimes, but not quite as frequently as I do with Patreon.
And Dia says, now you're stuck with us forever, Tiffany.
I love it. I'll take it.
Yes. Okay. Okay, great. Excellent. How about you, Jess?
I think it has changed, but
not that one, sorry.
More to I was finding time to try to upload more from before to now that I have children. I feel now that Emma's 4, And the littlest one, she was like born independent for whatever reason. I was like, you do have two sisters you can play with, but she seems to like be better on her own and do her own things. I feel like it changed, my presence changed as to like more, I can update more like as I'm reading like my bookstagram stories. Like I can do it and I'll be like, oh, I finished a book and 2 days later I get to post. Like now it's like, oh, I finished, like I can do a little talk about it, and you can hear my children in the background, but that's mainly it. And then sometimes I do post like pictures of her like on their birthdays or like for Halloween when they get dressed up. But other than that, it's like it's just books. And I feel like now I can do it, I can upload more often, but mainly in my stories. I don't really upload on my posts, one, because I feel like that's just to think about writing a post, that's like stress for me. Unless like I really know like, oh, I can write this and then I do it. But usually it's like, I want to post a picture of this. What do I say? But no, it hasn't changed the outlook of my legacy. Just because I feel like it's the same thing. I'm just talking about books. So as long as my love for books remains, it'll keep being just about books.
Neat. Hi, Christina.
Yay, Christina.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. So you already know. Awesome. And how about you, Tiffany?
So my answer is actually quite a bit different because my daughter is older. So she can consent to being on film or choosing what she wants to do because she's 11. And then when I started my channel, she was 8. And one of the first videos I ever uploaded was her sharing her favorite middle grade fantasy books. So, so she's actually been on my channel from the beginning. She's not on there all the time, but I do frequently do reading vlogs, and there will be clips of her, but only if she chooses she wants to be in them. And she'll usually do something like make a weird face or jump in front of the camera, and that's it. It's like I'm getting a view of the sunset, and she's gonna jump in front of the camera, you know. So she does have more of a presence on my channel than probably a lot of people do. I wouldn't say it's constant, but because she is older, she can choose to be on there, not be on there. I don't ever put her on there if she doesn't want to be. And usually when she's on there, she's playing a game like with me, or she's talking about books or something like that. So I am more aware than I have ever been. Thank you. She's a character. I'm more aware than I've ever been of how weird the internet can be with children. So I am for sure like cautious. She wants her own YouTube channel, and I won't let her do that. Even if I can see what she's uploading and turn off the comments, I still will not let her have her own YouTube channel. So she does make videos on her own sometimes, and I'll upload them as unlisted so I can send the link to friends or family, because she likes to film and write stories and act them out and do like the soundtrack for them and all that kind of stuff and edit them. She loves all of that. So like I want people that she knows to be able to see them, but I don't want people she doesn't know to see them. Yeah. And also I haven't really thought on my legacy at all. That might haunt me as I fall asleep tonight, that I've never thought about.
I think we're mostly hobbyists, so we don't think a lot about our legacy.
Yeah.
But I think there are booktubers who probably do.
Probably. Yeah. I'm pretty much who I am in real life is who I am on BookTube. So it's like you're getting me. I'm not trying to make it something that I'm not. So I guess it doesn't concern me as much, because it's like, well, this is just who I am. Take me or leave me.
We're happy to take you, Tiffany. Yeah, that's rough. You have to have that. I've been watching fostering channels a lot lately, and they have that same. That's a common divide you have to think about with foster kids.
And I love Chantel does similar things with her kids. Will come on and talk about books that they love, or play games, or something. So
yeah.
I love it. I love it when I see videos like that because it's so nice. It's so nice to get like kid perspectives on what books they like.
Yeah.
Because we might have an idea of what we think a kid should read, but the kid can be like, this is what a good book is. So
Yeah.
I love those videos when they pop up.
Yes.
We see it as a version, like you said, like we don't see each other in person. We don't talk or text or call like every day, but we do feel like there's like a kinship between Bookstagram and booktubers. You know, like when you make that, like, and it usually starts with like a buddy read or like a nice comment, and that's when you start like that kinship of like, you know, you're my friend kind of thing. So when we see Claire, like when I would see Claire on your videos, like it felt like I know that child, you know, like that's a mini Tiffany, like that's it feels like it makes you feel like closer to Tiffany, like to the person and the mom, and you feel like you're part of the family. So whenever you see them, it's like you're like that aunt, they're like my niece, like, you know, it's kind of like that feeling because you're like already have a relationship with the parents. So when you see their kids, you feel like, wow, like they trust you as a viewer to you be able to see like their children on screen, like so it's like a really nice feeling.
Yeah.
It's really what I love about our corner of booktube is that we actually can get to know each other, whereas like sometimes watching like a bigger booktuber that I don't actually have a personal relationship, and then with their kids, it feels like kind of a strange parasocial relationship, and it's still really fun, but it's also like your brain tricks you into kind of feeling like they're your friend, even though they have no idea you even exist. So that's kind of strange.
It is funny though, because, you know, Jess was talking about like commenting on videos and stuff. And it's like, if people comment on my videos multiple times, I remember you. Like if you've commented several videos in a row, I'm going to be like, oh, like, it's not like you're just this one-off. I used to think that when I would comment on videos before I had a booktuber or a booktuber when I first started on booktube. And now that I have like the number of subscribers of people who I'm like, oh, they'll never even notice this. I did that with Christy. That's how I became friends with Christy. Is that I'm like, I'm going to keep commenting and maybe I can be her friend someday. And it worked. I was an internet creeper and it worked. So if you comment on our videos, we know who you are and we love hearing from you, and we consider you friends like as much as you consider us friends.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Oh, we have a couple questions. There was can we explain what a Patreon is? So you don't have a Patreon, right, Jess?
Yeah.
Okay, but Tiffany and Victoria both have Patreons. So do you guys want to explain your Patreons?
Go ahead, Tiffany.
Sure. Okay, so basically a Patreon is essentially, it's like a membership based thing where you pay X amount of money a month for added benefits and added content. So every Patreon is going to be different, but lots of people at Patreon besides booktubers, like a lot of musicians and authors and different people at Patreon, and when you sign up you get like sneak peeks at things from their work and stuff like that. So for my Patreon, I have 3 levels, and each level kind of comes with different things, but you get extra videos every month. I do like reading sprints every month and reading challenges, and I do like vlogs just for my Patreon for books they've suggested for me to read. We do buddy reads together and get together and chat about them. So every single Patreon is different depending on what they offer, but that's just kind of like a base overview of what mine looks like. And Victoria's, I think, is pretty similar also.
And I think like as a what are we called, Christy? Patrons.
Yes.
Patrons.
Yes.
I feel like we join because we like the community. So if you have like a really a booktuber that you love and you want to join, like you not only get to make friends with essentially that patron, but like the patrons in the community, which like from there it's just like a little group of friends and you're just excited to like be part of it because it's usually like a smaller amount and you get to also know each other like by name.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really fun.
That's so true. Yeah, Jess and I have hung out together a lot because we're both in Kate House. We have both been in Kate Howe's Patreon, and so she does a lot of events. Like she does events all the time and for her patrons. So we've gotten to know each other through that. That's really fun. Victoria, do you want to explain a little bit about your Patreon?
Oh, I think Tiffany. I think Tiffany pretty much covered it. But yeah, my Patreon is basically like an excuse for me to run a book club and talk to my friends on Zoom. Like, yeah, it's mine functions just as a monthly book club that my patrons get to decide what genre and what title we're gonna read every month. So it's usually a book that somebody in the group wants to read. At least one person does. And so we just get a lot of wide variety. Like we've had everything. We've had nonfiction, we've had manga, we've had, I'll just like a lot of different things. So yeah, but I love being a part of like anyone's Patreon. I wish I could be a part of more Patreons because I like they're so much fun, and it's nice to have a little bit more of a smaller like group connection rather than like the whole of YouTube. So yeah, it's super fun.
Yes, agreed. And does Chantel also have a Patreon?
She does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she does.
Yes. Okay. So yes, go check out Chantel's channel on Patreon as well. And yes, we actually refer to Tiffany as our friend, not just like, so booktuber Tiffany. Would you like to?
Well, it's funny because I have two friends that I've made through BookTube, both named Victoria. One is a musical bookworm, actually has a channel, and the other one is a subscriber to me that I became really good friends through a buddy read, and now I talk to her like almost daily. And I have to specify like booktuber Victoria or not. So that's like the only time I have to do that. It's only because I know two Victoria.
And with the whole booktube thing, I love it because we can say that, like, for example, like I follow Chantel because of her love for Agatha Christie. She does a lot in her channel, but like that's one thing that attracts me to her. And yours is for classics. Like even though other booktubers upload classic books, like it's like that one connection that you make with a certain booktuber, and you're like, I'm gonna watch all your videos, but this is the reason why like I was attracted to your channel. Like, it's like a really cool thing because one of your viewers, when you become friends, it's like, oh yeah, I follow you because of my classics, and then would say, oh, I liked your reading blogs, and another can say, oh, I follow you because I enjoy your book reviews. And it's like it's just so like fantastically weird how people in booktube like come together. Like it's never just this one reason why I sub to your channel. Yeah. It's like many reasons.
Yeah, I love that. And everyone has different tastes, so that's fun.
Yes.
Yes.
Tiffany, I wanted to tell you, sometimes I'll watch your video and you're like, I'm buddy reading this book with Victoria, and I'm like, we are? And I'm like,
oh, I know. So I'm like
did I read
Victoria?
I'm like, wait, no, different Victoria, okay.
I try to say my subscriber friend or Victoria from a musical bookworm. I try to do that, but I have to because I know you both through BookTube. So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's funny.
This made me laugh. Dia's probably already gone, but
business trip.
For business trip. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Oh, it's already. Oh wow, we've already been going for over an hour. So, how are you guys doing for time? Do you have time for another question, or okay? You can let me know if you need to go. Just let me know. You can let us know, or you can just go. You don't even have to let us know.
Bye.
Bye.
Just be like, peace out. Leave.
So this is all three. Oh, I think I missed part of this question. Sorry. So part of this question is how do you promote like literacy and reading in your home? Do you have any like tips or stories you want to share? I know Victoria told me recently that she brought Sandro to Barnes and Noble, and that story was just like, oh, that's so cute. So yeah, everybody wants their kids to thrive, and literacy is a big part of that, being able to read. So how do you encourage your kids to read or get excited about books? You want to start, Tiffany?
Sure. So I have been reading to Claire since literally before she was born. Like when I was pregnant, I was reading picture books to her. So I was like, this child is going to be a bookworm. She's going to be like me. I just know it. So we always had age appropriate books all over the place. So like board books when she was little, if she was more rough with books. Peter read a bedtime story to her every night, even when she was a newborn. And so like we have always been reading to her, but a huge way when she was really young that we got her really excited about books beyond just us reading to her was taking her to the library, because the library had all these different like events. When she was really tiny, we were near an amazing library, like so great, that had like so many events every week. Like if it was a school break, they'd have some like several things every single day. And it was a tiny town, so I don't know how they were able to do that, but it was incredible. So she would love going to the library, love hearing the stories and doing a craft. She wrote her name for the first time on a craft at the library when she was 3. So they have like a lot of precious memories of the library. And she would just sit there and look at the books for forever. She was like a year. I remember the first time I took her, she was about a year old. She just sat there and pulled a book off the shelf and just sat there and like stared at it for forever. And I'm like, yes, my plan is working. So I mean, that was a huge thing for us. And we also took her to like Barnes and Noble and stuff like that when she was younger. She called it Barnes of Noble. And half the time we wouldn't even buy books because sometimes we didn't have money for books. And so we just go in there and just look at books for a really long time. And it was really, really wonderful. But the library is our favorite. For real.
So
For real.
true.
And modeling reading for them as well, which Chantel, I think she shared a meme or something like this where it had like a parent talking to another parent, and one kid is reading and one kid's on their phone. And they were like, how do you get them to read so much? And the parent with the kid that's reading is holding a book. And the other parent's also holding a device. So it was like, if you're modeling reading on your own, even not reading to your child, like children automatically kind of want to emulate their parents because their parents are so cool and they just want to do what mom's doing or dad's doing. They see you reading, they're going to be that much more interested in reading. Same. Those are my homeschool shelves behind me. So that's just one of many shelves.
How about you, Jess?
I would say the same. I do want to take credit for Emma, which is my oldest one, for reading, because I would read to her also when she was in the womb. And then when she was born, I would read her like the same book usually until she was 1 every night. And then I would want to say, because she was raised, because I want to say I did raise them differently, because with Emma, she was only my first one, so I feel like I had all the time in the world for her. And then when my second one was born, since Emma had already the routine of like a bedtime story, and then my littlest one, I would just give to my husband, like, here, take care of her, the baby, while I go read to Emma. And then now that they're older, Emma is the one gets excited for bedtime reading. So she's like, oh, mommy, I'm going to go get a book. So then her sisters want to follow her because she's the older, cool sister now. They don't look up to mom. Emma looks up to me, but they look up to her. So they go and run and get books. And then they're like waiting in their bed for like their story time. Aww. And Emma's the only one that can like stay still and listen. And she'll ask questions at the end. Olga's the one that's just like once, like she's 3 years old So she's like flipping through the book, like finished already. And then my littlest one, who is about to be 2, I start reading and she says, stop. And then I stop and she's like, done. And so we close the book. It's like not even, she's not there yet, but I'm hoping she will get there.
So cute.
So right now, Emma's like the reader one of the family, and she gets so excited when I go to Barnes and Nobles because she's like, "Mommy, your books." She calls them my books, and I'm like, "They
Aw.
are my books."
Tell that to your husband.
These are mine.
Now it's buddy reading.
Oh, I love that.
Buddy reading with me. It's funny because he always asks me like, "Oh, have you finished like other buddy reads?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm starting another one." And he laughs. He's like, "We haven't finished ours. I think we're going by 2 months to try to read." He loves horror movies, so we picked up a horror book. So we're buddy reading Horns by Joe Hill, and it's really fun. And I'm like, I'm going at your pace because I don't want to put him off either. Of like me, like I read 10 chapters, now you have to read 10 chapters. It's like, he'll tell me like I read 1 chapter, and I'm like, okay, I'll read 1 chapter, and then I put it down. I'm like, I'm following your pace. I was like, if I can get, and that was my plan with Emma. I was like, I can get Emma to start reading at such a young age. I can get my husband to do so too. So I'm excited. 8 years later, but here we are.
That is my crowning achievement. Is my husband was always like, "What's the point of books? I could just watch the movie." And I've turned him into a bookworm. He loves to read now.
Wow.
And he's a slow reader, so it takes him a while. But that is my crowning achievement of my life. I pick someone who's like, why would I when I could watch the movie? Who's actually reading books now?
I'm still trying to get him to read, and then there were none. He's picked it up twice in the past 8 years, but he can't get past chapter 1. And I was like, I know it's so many characters, but trust me, like you'll eventually know who's who and what's what. I was like, you need to. He's like, is there a movie? And I'm like, there is a movie. And I was like, I have the movie, but no. And he's like, well, let me watch the movie, and if I enjoy the movie, I'll read the book. And I'm like, it's been 5 years since we watched the movie, and he hasn't picked up the book.
You should have held it like a carrot and like, once you read it, we'll watch it.
But he'll get there. Right now, I'm super excited. We're like at 70%, and he gets so excited when I tell him. I was like, according to my Kindle, we're like 40%. He's like, yeah, like, and I'm like that. And he says he's reading the physical book, and he gets so like, also like what I said about reading a physical book, like that achievement that you get, like that feeling. And he does it. He puts his book back. He's like, look how much I've read. And that's good, babe. Meanwhile, we're over here like reading 10 books, and he's like barely getting to them. But I'm like, I'm going at your pace. I'm not gonna like put you off of this. Like, you're gonna become a reader.
I love that. You should have a little prize box for him. Every 5 chapters, you get a piece of candy.
How about you, Victoria?
So Sandro loves books. It's honestly probably his favorite thing to do. He's obviously, he doesn't read. He's 1.5, but he loves the pictures, and right now he loves the animals, and it's all about the animals in the books. Right now, every animal is a bunny. He'll point to any animal and be like, bunny, bunny, bunny. I'm like, no, that's a cheetah. It's a bunny.
Close, but
so yeah, I mean, he just like, that's like one of his favorite things to do. And we definitely, even, you know, as a newborn, I was like reading him books every day. Like Tiffany, you know, it doesn't matter if they are comprehending it. Like, it's just the act of doing something with them and like making it a kind of a like a mommy and me activity. Like, we sit down and read books. Like, that's how they're gonna love it, is it's something you do together. So that's how it starts. And then yes, I will definitely be a book pusher later in life, I'm sure. But right now I don't even have to push them because it's like his favorite thing to do.
Oh, that's so cute.
That's the thing what I do. Like with Emma, I know right now I'm able to finish a book with her. So I do push her more when like she is starting to lose interest. I'm like, no, we're not done yet. And she'll like get refocused and I finish the book. With Olga, I'm trying to push her a little bit, but I know her limits. So I don't want her to hate it. I know Emma can handle the book, and with Penelope, which is like my littlest one, she's the one that tells me stop, turns out the book and done. And I'm like, at this time, at her age, I'm like, okay, we're done. Because I don't want her to see a book and be like, no.
Yeah.
So as long as she like runs for a book, that's like to me already a well done mama.
Yes,
She's
absolutely.
running to get a book instead of a toy.
Oh, that is heartwarming. Now, all of you guys are teachers or will be teachers. Do you think that does that affect how you promote literacy with your kids at all, do you think?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, like, I loved reading anyway.
Mhm.
So I think I would have been promoting it anyway. But maybe what I was looking for in terms of books and what I was looking at, like, oh, let's try this or this or that, like, that might, I think, like, the homeschool teacher in me was like, okay, let's read this book that has educational value or something like that, instead of just like, I don't know, a PJ Masks picture book, which we did that too.
Yeah.
But I
I'm
think
still
I
on that
mixed it
stage.
up a little bit more because of homeschooling.
Mhm. That's really smart.
Yeah.
How about you, Jess?
It affected me in the way that personally I never liked reading books out loud. So it was a struggle for me to read when Emma was in the womb, when Emma was like picture books. I would really have to go for once, not for her, but for me that had very few words, because in my mind, I'm like, this is not how I read. So it was like a switch for me because I'm like, I need to like, because I know how to read out loud. I just need to like it because I would find it such like a bad thing for me. Like I was like, oh, I need to read her this book. Like that was my thing of like, I have to read it out loud. I've never liked reading out loud. So it was hard for me until like I decided, well, it's not for me, it's for them. Like it's not my thing. Like I need to make it fun for them. Otherwise they're not gonna, how are they gonna learn or hear about books if I'm not there? So I learned the hard way to be like, suck it up and do it for them and not for you, because I would find it like a tedious task when I would have to. And now that Emma's 4, that I'm trying to, right now we're currently reading Charlotte's Web, and she finds it so funny, and there's times like something is happening and I'm like tearing up, and she's like, why are you crying? Because she's still at the age where she doesn't like fully grasp what's going on, and I'm like, nothing, it's nothing. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Like I should pick up really happy books. And because I've never read Charlotte's Web, so I was like, I should have read this book before introducing it to her. So now that's what I'm trying to do. Like all these books that I'm reading, I'm like, I'm reading it before, and then I'll pass it on to you, because I learned my lesson with Charlotte's Web. I was like, because she doesn't understand why I'm getting like really teary, and she's like, it's, what's wrong, mom? And I'm like, nothing is wrong, everybody's happy.
I read Charlotte's Web to Claire for also, and I was crying a lot at the end. And she like knew what happened at the end, but she was like, I don't get why you're crying about it. Like, she was only 4, so she was like, okay, it's a book.
What's wrong with you, mom?
It wasn't until we read Anne of Green Gables, when I read that out loud to her, that was finally the first book that we both cried at.
Wow, everybody is having this experience with Charlotte's Web. Now we'll have to be watching and see if Victoria reads Charlotte's Web to Sandra.
It's a great age for it, but 4 or 5.
How about you, Victoria?
So, so I am a public school teacher, And I interact with students who have lots of varying backgrounds and different support at home. And so I have kids who, like, their parents are very involved, their parents read with them at home, and then I have kids who are 5th graders reading at a 1st grade level because that support is not at home. And so I think, like, learning that and, like, seeing those different backgrounds, kids with different reading struggles too. Like, it really does, like, what the parent does with their kid is so important. Like, that is it's so essential. And um yeah, it just definitely drives home for me, like, the things that I want to do at home and the things that I hope Sandro loves someday. Like, I hope he loves reading as much as I do, and if he doesn't someday, that's okay. But yeah, just being, like, just involved with your kids is it's sad to say that there are families where they are not involved, but it's true. And yeah, I think that's really what will set kids up for success with reading and literacy is the parent being interested in um, like, doing it with their children.
Mm. Oh, that's a great note to end on, because we know that, you guys are reading with your kids, so they're going to be the ones that are doing well in school. So that's really awesome. Yeah.
Yep. It is really hard.
All right. So that was our last real discussion question. So wow, you guys made it through all of them. Good job. I wanted to, as we are ending off the live show and letting people go back to their Sunday lives, I wanted to hear what's, like, one book that you really have loved reading with your child or can't wait to read with your child in honor of middle grade March. Do you want to? We haven't had Jess start one because she's in the middle on my screen. But Jess, would you like to start this one?
I like that one, like what Tiffany said, what Victoria said.
Now we can do like what Jess said.
Yes.
I think it would have to be my favorite middle grade book that I read, and it was Esperanza Rising, but I read it in Spanish, so I'm really excited for them to start reading in Spanish as well. So that's one of the books that when they get older is one book that I would definitely be pushing. Like, I think I'm gonna have that set of books where I'm like, you must read these books, and then you can read whatever book you want to read. But I feel like that would be one. And the Harry Potter series, obviously. I'm like asking my husband, is it too early for Emma to start the Harry Potter series? Every time I reread them, I'm like, is it too early? Like, because I remember I was older, but I was like, but I wish I could have read this since like the beginning of my reading experience. So I was like, oh, okay, we'll see. But I think those are definitely some. And like, because of Wing Dixie, because I know the Love Dogs, and I think that's like a really good one too. So I'm going with
you
those.
had a bunch. I agree too with Harry Potter. Like, I will always be so grateful for Harry Potter because that's what I think Kevin realized. He really started loving reading because of Harry Potter. And as we were listening to the audiobooks, he was like, wow, there's so much in these that aren't in the movies, and he loves the movies. So it was like, yeah, so now he's reading them like himself on his own. It's exciting.
Yay.
But anyways, let's see. How about you, Tiffany?
Well, the book that I was the most excited to read with Claire was The Secret Garden, because that was my favorite book as a child. Like, I had a lot of favorite books, really, but I read that one over and over and over again as a small child. And so I couldn't wait to read it with her. And I read it with her in the spring. So I purposely waited until it was spring so I could read it with her. And then right now we're reading The Wednesday Wars together by Gary D. Schmidt, and that's one of my favorite middle grades ever. But I think it's definitely for the older end of middle grade because they're like 7th graders in the book. But it's so good. We've both laughed. I've cried several times. I don't think she's cried yet, but she probably will. Yeah, and then I haven't read Lord of the Rings with her yet, but I can't help but think she'll love it because she loved The Hobbit. So Lord of the Rings is my most reread book series. I've read it like we're on with my Patreon now. This is my 13th time reading through. So I can't wait to introduce her to Lord of the Rings too. So I have several too.
That will be an exciting day when Claire starts Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
This made me think of Sandro, the eating the books.
Yeah, that's the stage of life that we're in. Yeah, although he's really pretty nice to books because he likes books. Like he ripped one page out of one of our books and he was like shocked that he did it. He was like, and he kept like trying to put it back.
Oh,
like, I don't understand what I did.
Oh,
he's really pretty good to books.
Considering how young he is, that's impressive that he's only ripped one book.
Yeah, he really except there was another book that had like pop-up dogs, like where like you open it, it's a pop-up book, and he totally destroyed that book because he just ripped all the dogs out.
Pop-up books are a nightmare for toddlers. Like they should not exist for toddlers. Sometimes they're made for toddlers, and I'm like, have you ever seen a toddler?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, that book did not last. It did not last.
This also reminded me of Doggin.
Doggin,
yeah.
Burden.
Yeah. My son calls dogs Doggins. But right now everything's a bunny, so
He's grown.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, Stephanie recommended a middle grade book for Tiffany to read in her Patreon, and I'm so excited that Stephanie's got chosen.
She doesn't even know that hers got chosen.
Oh,
now
sorry.
She does.
Spoiler.
She doesn't know which one though. She suggested like 4. So
sorry, I totally just ruined the surprise.
No, it's fine.
I figured you'd already told her.
No, I didn't.
And Victoria, what is there a book that you are excited to read with Sandro, or that you would recommend that you've read with him and really loved, or anything like that?
He loves animals right now, so I'm like, what animal books would he like someday? But the problem with animal books is that like all these books, like something bad happens to the animal, so I'm like, maybe he shouldn't read animal books.
A lot of them, yeah.
It's so true.
But I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm excited for him to just fall in love with reading. And I don't really care what it is. Like as long as it's appropriate, but I just want it to be something he loves. And yeah. Way of Kings.
Yes.
Can't wait for him to read Way of Kings.
I can't wait to introduce Claire to Sanderson. She's gonna get Skyward in like probably a year or 2. So
exciting!
Soon.
I'm listening to Skyward right now, and I'm just loving re-listening to it. Despero!
Oh yes, and Despero doesn't die. The mouse doesn't die.
Okay, yes. Old Yeller is so misleading with the cute cover pictures.
Not Old Yeller. You're not reading Old Yeller.
Because of When Dixie would be fine too.
Okay. Yes. Is it? Someone sad? It's not.
It's sad in other ways. Like we're dealing with some childhood issues of like a mom that left, but the dog doesn't die. So.
Okay.
So bad in some ways, but not in an animal way.
Yeah.
Can I share something with y'all?
Yeah.
For
That'll
my 3 girls, while I was pregnant with them, with Emma, one of the books that I read was Wives and Daughters. This one I was already reading, but it was such a beautiful thing that I would write little notes, but for her specifically.
Aww.
Like when she was reading, because I'm like thinking, so I can't wait for them to like read the classic books that I've chose for them, as I like that would make me think of them. And I would just write like for Emma, like it would be like to baby T and then her date of birth and when I started it reading. And it's just like a little notes specifically for her, like annotated. And so these are the books that like I really can't wait. Hopefully I'm still here whenever they feel like reading classics. If not, it's gonna be one book that I'm gonna be like, you have to read it because I wrote you things there. Like I just can't imagine them be like, Mom, I'm a sci-fi reader, not a classic reader. Well, you have to read Wives and Daughters because it's a must. And I did that for the three of them. So that's something that I'm like really excited.
That's very cool.
Yes. I was just, when you leaned over, Jess, do you have the zigzag for your hair, the part in your hair?
Oh, a little bit. That's what I was going for. But with
So
like my, I was like, I'm going back to my 2000 roots of like the zigzag.
It's all back in, all of it.
It is.
I look at like what's in for teens right now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wore this in high school. I feel old.
They're wearing our clothes.
Awesome. Well, I think this is the perfect place to end, even though people are jumping in. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl. Also a mom on BookTube. She talks often about what she and her daughters are reading for homeschool or just in general, so that's fun.
Nice. I almost feel like I need to do a part 2 with like more parents. But thank you guys so much for joining me up here. I really appreciate you guys giving up part of your Sunday to be here and hang out. And everybody in the chat as well. You guys always make it so fun chatting with you guys. So thanks for coming and have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks for coordinating, Christy. This was a great idea. It was a lot of fun to talk about.
Of course. I'm so glad you guys all said yes and could make it. Bye, everyone.